Hello everyone, today I'm going to take you through the first steps of playing Suionia, an early version of Sweden in Imperative Rome, and then I'll take you through to a bit of a spicy strategy that you maybe want to try. And this should apply really for most migratory tribes. So let's get started here. I'm going to slot in just one idea. Now remember, you don't really have to slot in both the ideas and spend all the political influence. I'm just going to slot in the idea for extra morale, and then as usual I'm going to begin influencing stakeholders as the leader. Now we'll call in one of these omens really, but none of them are particularly inspiring. We will probably end up changing the religion here anyway. At the start, there's not very much that we can import. Maybe we'll do a wild game here just to improve archers in case that helps in any way. And maybe, well, we've got a surplus of woad. Maybe we'll get some fish if we can. We can't, so we don't really have many options. As a migratory tribe, what you can do is you can begin a migration. So if I click this button here, it will raise up to 20 pops. Now we have far fewer, we only have 3 pops in this territory, but it will raise up to 20 pops as each one is a light infantry cohort, as a migratory stack. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to move in a bunch of pops from other territories that I have, and I'm going to press this button, and now a whole 9 pops will begin migrating, and there'll be 0 pops left in here. So I have a stack of 9 migratory cohorts, and I'm going to split off just one of them, select it, and I'm going to settle it. This is the settle button. I'm going to settle it back down so I do take back that territory, and I'm going to send these cohorts to go and colonize these 2 territories. So I need 3 cohorts for this and 3 cohorts for this territory. So I'm going to send 6 total. Now before unpausing, I'm going to start the mission, the Matter of Scandia, and we'll begin consulting the High Council, which will allow us to get casus belli on some of our neighbors. And I'm going to make a couple of alliances. Let's make an alliance with Livonia here. And why not? We'll have an alliance with Suionia as well. Another thing that we can preemptively do is start changing some of our laws. Now, there's some powerful laws on the left to do with continuing to be a migratory tribe, but if you want to settle down, then you want the ones on the right. So we'll take the coin minting initiative first. That'll start increasing our centralization. Eventually we want this to be positive, probably at least about 70%, hopefully 100, in order to settle down as a settled tribe. So let's play with that. Let's go ahead. So here I'm going to settle this stack here and settle this stack here, and then I'm going to once again raise them up as migratory stacks again. There we go. And I'll bring them back. For now we'll want to make sure they keep well fed and that sort of thing. So it's 1 year in, and I've just finished the top of these missions, which means I have a bunch of claims, and so I'm going to look around. I'm going to see who I'm going to declare war on. Let's declare war here on Gutia. And they're allied with Suionia. That's unfortunate because we're also allied with them. But they also have a defensive pact here with Phrasia. So that's okay. But here's the thing. So that means that we'll be fighting Forasia and Agutia. And we're going to look for where Forasia's capital is. Here they have a fortress. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our migratory stack, which has a loyal general now, and we're going to preemptively move this into the capital territory of this tribe that we're about to be at war with. And this allows us to begin sieging them down even before starting the war. We're going to call in our allies here. And we're going to mobilize our actual levies. But now, as you can see, we started the war and we're immediately sieging down the enemy fortress here on their main territory. We'll let our allies fight some of these enemies. So there you go, we've taken this territory, and now we're going to go and siege down this one. This one actually doesn't have a fort in, and what we're going to try and do is we're going to separate piece out this this tribe first. So we're going to do a separate piece with this tribe. That's them taken down. And we're going to siege down this tribe here as well. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to Gotland here because they do have a slightly bigger navy than us. I wasn't really paying attention there, and they took out my initial 2 ships. That's okay. We'll leave Gotland to this little tribe. So we're first going to make a separate peace with this little tribe here with Suionia, so we'll take their land off them here. And finally, we'll make peace with Gutian. We'll leave them Gotland itself. I accidentally lost my 2 ships. I should have tried to land them earlier on, but that doesn't really matter. And here we go. So now we've taken a large chunk of the Swedish coastline here. We are now by far the strongest power in the region. We can now go to war perhaps with Favonia. We can repeat this trick. So what we'll do is we'll first let our migratory stacks here regain the amount of food they need because we don't want them to starve. And then we're going to park them on this fort here. And then we will siege it down, begin sieging it down immediately and go to war with them. So I'll show you how that comes out here. So here we are, we've won another war. We're going to annex all the territories we can. We're not going to give this last one to Leonia though. So there we go. And so with this, we are now the strongest nation in Scandia, early name for Scandinavia. So we can continue, we can form the nation of Scandia. We can take out the last 2 tribes here, plus these 2 small ones, and continue. If you decide to expand into Scandia, the suggestion is to use your migratory stack or stacks to first begin sitting on top of enemy territories with forts, so that when you declare war, they immediately begin sieging it down. However, an arguably better and certainly more spicy strategy is to uproot your entire nation as a migratory tribe and to attack the so-called civilized peoples of the south. So in order to begin migration, as we've seen, we can press this button to turn up to 20 pops in a given territory into a migratory stack. But of course, it costs the same amount of stability no matter how many times you press this button. So if we were to do this in turn for each of these territories, it would cost more stability than we currently have. So the idea is, of course, to centralize our people, to move the slaves and tribesmen. You can only move tribesmen as a tribe, but we are a tribe, into a single province if you can, and then only have to press this button a fewer number of times. This is limited, of course. In some territories we do have freemen here and possibly even citizens, so we can't move those, unfortunately. So the minimum number of times that we have to do this beginning migration is the number of territories that contain one of those population groups. But we will be able to effectively vacate some of these territories and centralize the number of people. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to leave alone any territories with vegetables. So this territory has vegetables, and a surplus of vegetables, it makes moving slaves cheaper. So this is going to be some of the last territories that we vacate. But let's, for now, let's look. So for example here, we can move the 2 tribesmen in here into a territory that here there's a citizen, so we're going to move the pops out of Nakriz. Yes, we will move all the last occupying pop, leaving it uncolonized, and we're going to do the same up to a maximum of 20 because that's how many we can move. We can make migrate into a single stack. And again, we're going to leave the vegetables for now, so we're going to empty this territory. Empty these ones with the woad. Empty this one with furs. More woad. And we're going to continue on the same way. And only at the very end we're going to actually push that button to create a migratory stack. So here I am a little bit later. I didn't quite have enough stability to vacate the last territory, so I left the last possible, the southernmost possible territory as a sort of waypoint for my migratory stacks to just quickly stop over and take on the last bit of food for their journey down south. I've then split the stacks. You don't want to have them all moving in a single big stack because they'll incur attrition, so we are going to infiltrate south in terms of these small little groups like this. And at this point there are 3 good targets that you can go for that I'll explain now. So perhaps the easiest way to play this is to set up a new base down south here next to Bohemia, or Bohemia, that's the origin of the modern name, the home of the Boy tribe. And we're going to just settle this single territory here. Now it has 4 pops in it at the moment, so the minimum that we need, and that's what we're going to use, we're going to split off a stack of 2,000 in strength. That's 4 cohorts, 4 pops of yours that are migrating, and we're going to settle them down here. Notice I have completely vacated Scandia, so this is now going to be our new capital. And as soon as I settle this down, I'm going to move all my stacks in here so that they can begin eating, and I'm going to begin fabricating a claim on Bohemia. And eventually we're going to go to war. It will take us some time firstly to fabricate that claim, get all of our stacks down here, and to get enough stability, to get 20 stability so we can formally declare a war. I have used a divine sacrifice here to speed that up along, so we're just going to have to wait a little while. And so here we are a few years later. We have barely enough stability to declare war. And so what I've done is I've split up my stacks. I've given both of them leaders to give them a bit of extra fighting capacity, and I've parked this one on top of their capital and their fort, and this one is going to be a mobile stack to go and take their provincial capitals. So let's just declare war here with a war goal now. We immediately begin that siege, and with this stack we're going to go over and first capture their two provinces and then move them back just so they don't capture our capital. Another thing we can do at this point is to begin integrating the Boyan culture up to citizen level, so then they'll be able to be mobilized. So we've captured all their territory, and here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Yes. Take all the territory. We can either take in their families or banish them. It doesn't really matter here. But now we have a large base of operations. We will have a larger military once we finish integrating the Boyan culture. I could have begun this earlier when we first settled this territory. But from here on, we can now expand southward, and indeed we can colonize some of this territory as well, and really expand, get big, perhaps form some alliances and try and stop Rome, because Rome will be one of your biggest threats here. But now you can play a fairly standard game. Eventually you can get a positive centralization, reform yourself into an empire or a republic, and just play a good normal game. A slightly more difficult strategy is to take on a non-tribal nation. In this case, I've got the Bosporan Kingdom, and they happen to be at war here. They're already at war. And so what I've done is I've brought my horde stacks, I've parked them on their fort territories and also on top of their cities. Now, we can immediately declare war with a little trick. So what we're going to do is, if there's a city, and I mean, you know, an actual city territory, what we can do is we can press this button to pillage it. In fact, we're going to look through whichever of these cities is the juiciest target for a pillage. Is going to be this one, I think. So we pillage one city, and then the second city of that same nation that we pillage will cause us to go to war with them. So here we go. We are now at war. We will immediately begin sieging down some of their provinces, including, most importantly, their forts. And here's another thing you can do. So we're going to look for very low populated territories that they have. So there's 8 pops here, 8 here, 7 here, and in this one there should be 7. So let's have a look. In Cimmerian, there's 7. So if we've occupied it as we have here in a war, and we have 7 of our own migratory cohorts, we can then settle it, and it will become our territory without signing any sort of peace deal. And of course, because we're a migratory horde, this is now going to become our capital province. So this will give us a nice little base of operations where we can also feed some of our stacks. We've now become formally a city-state. We have a single province. We can even import some things. So we can choose something to import, perhaps a food stock or something for our light infantry. Of course, all our migratory stacks are light infantry. So let's do that. And then we're just going to wait to siege down their forts here. They are occupied with a war, so that's okay. Eventually we will have to fight them, and we also want to just be cognizant of the amount of food that our stacks have, and if we need more food we can always send them back here to take on some extra food as well. So here we have all of their fortresses on Crimea taken. So now we can sort of consolidate our troops together and get them well fed and get them into a single stack with a good general. And we can actually go and fight the Bosporans here. In fact, we're going to leave one 8k stack here and a 20k stack. We're going to go and do a bit more raiding and conquering. Eventually, we want to force them to have a peace. Let's say if we can take just the Crimea, that would be quite okay for us. We may have to refuse Kalos Liman here, although it only has 2 pops, so what we can do is we can send a unit of 2 pops, and once again we can just settle this ourselves. In the meantime, we can siege down all of their territories and to firstly take some captives, get some money, and eventually force them to take a peace with us. So here we are. We're actually going to pillage this first and then settle it. That should reduce the war score needs here. But we will have to just probably take a battle first before they will accept this peace deal. So we actually outnumber them by more than 10 to 1 here, so we insta-wipe their stack and taken one of them. Interestingly, an Israelite in the Bosporan Kingdom. Someone maybe can tell us more about that, the history of that. But we've taken one of them captive, taken a battle. They're still not quite ready to sign a peace with us, but we can just wait and raid them a little bit until they are. So here we are. They are now ready for a peace deal. We'll just take the Crimea from them. And there you go. Now you're in a strong position. You can expand normally once again, make some alliances perhaps, make some enemies. You can repeat this raiding trick. Of course, you can only, if you raid once, you actually won't go to war with that nation. So you can go through a bunch of cities and raid them for money and eventually expand here into the rich lands of Greece and Asia Minor. And the only other thing that I like to do, if you've watched my Carthage guide, is to convert to Hellenic, which should be fairly straightforward here. First, we're going to put in a Hellenic deity. Let's go for Hermes. And the other thing we're going to need is we're going to need a Hellenic character in our country. But it's actually enough to just get a Hellenic mercenary. So if we look for a cheap Hellenic mercenary, this guy is Hellenic and only costs 4 upkeep, so we could eventually even probably afford these, but we're just going to recruit him for just a little while. We do need our clan chiefs to be happy, so we're going to go and appease our clan chiefs here, put them all above 60 loyalty. Of course, our leader is a clan chief, so there's just 2 others. Put them above 60 loyalty. Embrace the Hellenic pantheon. At this stage, when you can, you want to swap in all the Hellenic deities. And from now on, we have become the thing we swore to destroy. We eventually can reform, even into a republic, and have a fairly standard game. And now we are a much stronger Sweden than we started off as. The other alternative is to go for one of the Diadochi. This is probably the most difficult option, but if you are lucky or well-timed, you can catch them while they're at war. At the moment, they're being invaded by the Gauls in the Galatian invasion event in Invictus. Of course, you can catch them while they're fighting each other normally, even without any mods. But here we go. Once again, we're going to pillage a couple of their cities just to go to war. We're going to start capturing some of their territories. We're going to settle one of these lesser populated territories and then get a peace out of them. Here we just happen to have caught one of their stacks retreating and given them a bloody nose. We're going to settle this Kalendoya in Halkidiki. And once we've settled this, we can even perhaps, if we're good enough at raiding their cities, we can even hire a mercenary stack, maybe one of these, and then use that to fight our battles. We really don't want to be taking any battles on our migratory stacks, but we can use the mercenaries either to assault fortifications, to take actual fights, and eventually we can peace them out. We can even offer them peace. So if you want a white peace, don't demand peace here, press offer peace, and you can see we're actually already quite close to getting just a white peace. And if we did this, we would basically have an established sort of base out in Macedonian territory, and we could then expand from there. We could, any time that Macedon is having internal trouble or is fighting one of the other Diadochi, we can mobilize some mercenaries, we can go and raid their cities for extra money. This is a bit more of an advanced thing, but you can fight wars against the Diadochi quite easily. Here we are, we've taken some of their forts, we've taken a couple of good fights, we're beginning to occupy their territory. They're not going to have many forts left, so we'll be able to quite easily occupy some of the other territories that they have. They have very weak units now, as you can see, very low manpower. So we can kind of fight this out, and even we can preliminarily begin integrating Macedonian here. We're going to have a lot of Macedonian pops. And start taking good fights and that sort of thing as well. So here we've inflicted another defeat on the Macedonians, and we're ready to perhaps peace them out. We'll see what we might want to take. Because we didn't declare a war with a clear war goal, all of these things cost a lot more in terms of the war score, so it may only be Halkidiki that we can take initially. But as you can see, with a few mercenaries and a lot of migratory stacks, we've already been able to defeat the Macedonians quite readily. So even if we take a small sliver of land, we can then perhaps mobilize more migratory stacks, and we can repeat this all over again, perhaps with some local allies and things like that. So let me know how you get on, and I will see you in a future video, I hope.